Look, let's be frank. This year in gaming was a turbulent one. Even with the launch of new consoles and the anticipation of some fantastic games this year will be known for things such as Ubisoft's inability to do anything QA-wise, the various successes and failures of early access and Kickstarters in the gaming industry, and a war between various groups and individuals involving perceptions of corruption, misogyny, and bitterness that have come from rising frustrations within the gaming community. There's a lot of hate out there nowadays, sadly. But through it all, we have our games. The games that brought us pure joy. The games that brought us endless feels. The games that made us realize why there's so much controversy in the first place. That gaming has risen to be a top form of entertainment and media in the world today. And so, to celebrate the year of 2014, I want to give my top 10 games of the year. Now, my same rules apply as in several previous lists. This is my list and nothing else, and it has to be games that I've played. So the lack of titles such as Far Cry 4 and Dragon Age Inquisition may have everything to do with the fact that I just didn't play them. Now, there were some runner-ups that I've been playing throughout this intro portion, which didn't make the cut, but I wanted to show off anyway, as this year, despite the hatred, was filled with a variety of fun and interesting games. But without further ado, this is the top 10 games for me in 2014. Number 10, Mario Kart 8. The game that helped breathe life into the Wii U when things were looking grim, and brought Nintendo a comeback year compared to the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. In fact, one may notice that neither of the new consoles this year have a game on this list, although I don't own an Xbox One yet. The classic Mario Kart series got an update to the new system, bringing back the chaotic and fun multiplayer gameplay with better online services. Yeah, I know, friend codes, but it's still better than it ever was. And it's the game I played the most local multiplayer with my friends this year. And that's an accomplishment, because full disclosure on this one, I haven't actually been a real fan of the series. And do you want a controversial statement? I liked Diddy Kong Racing more than Mario Kart 64. Yeah, I expect the hate. But with the tight controls and different customizations of characters and karts, this year felt like one of the best Mario Karts in recent memories because I had extra control of how I wanted to play. In my mind, one of the best things about this year were the tracks. The variety of tracks did really stand out to me this year and let me keep on playing tracks without really ever getting bored of the experience, even when playing them multiple times over and over again. The power-ups were balanced a little bit more, and honestly, it was just a fun party game to play. Good times to sit down and enjoy with others. It continues the strong tradition of the Mario Kart franchise. Number 9, Transistor. Some people say that games aren't an art form. I laugh at that. Transistor is one of the most recent examples of art taking life in a game, with a fun turn-based like mechanic and strategy game being developed by the guys at Supergiant Games, which created one of my favorite games in Bastion. Now, some may be wondering how this game, and not the two games rated higher on the games you haven't played list, made it on my top 10 games of the year and those two didn't. Simple. I took into account the fact that some people had played it in the rankings of that video. So being played by some did knock it down the list, but the fact of the matter is, Transistor is a great game in its own right, and it reminded me of that fact when playing it again to get the footage for these videos. You mix the wonderful city backdrop and narrative with an interesting combat style that mixes real-time elements with the ability to stop time, and you have a game that balances all the elements rather well. Honestly, I could go into this game again over and over, even beyond what I said in the previous video, but in the end, it's a fun experience. The turn-based strategy portion was a great mix with the regular combat, and the ability to enhance the experience with power-ups that made the game harder but rewarded you more was an appreciated holdover from Bastion. It's a game that rewards smart moves, but does test your reflexes and your ability to deal with things on the fly. It was an audio and visual masterpiece, and I still love listening to that music to this day. Number 8, Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS and for the Wii U. Yes, this is two games in one, but let's be honest, the game franchise is what it is, a fun fighter which brings all the franchise giants from Nintendo's universe and brings some new iconic characters from some other franchises as well. Hint Capcom, where the hell is my goddamn Mega Man? Some people may say it's more of the same, and I counter with, do you want anything else? It's Smash, in both a portable and an HD form. It's exactly what we wanted, and a sequel that doesn't milk the franchise for yearly releases. Nintendo again took its time, and it shows in the quality. Online play felt better, balance of characters felt better, and yet, still was fun and accessible for everyone. I felt the game did its best in being multifaceted, in allowing for more competitive play options while still keeping the balance of being a more casual fighter. Rule selections and everything aside, the addition of an 8-player Smash mode on the Wii U version was a fun addition for even more chaos, and new modes like the Smash Tour and the Smash Run mode played with the formula enough to keep the game interesting to keep on playing. It's not genre bending, it's not the game of the year, but it's a party game that I'll be playing with my friends for years to come. And characters stood out to me a bit more this year with new mechanics such as playable characters like Little Mac and the Villager, which really changed up strategies compared to the last go around. And then the twist on classic mode and the Crazy and Master Hand were appreciated as well. Again, it shows Nintendo's commitment to quality with its signature franchises. Number 7. This War of Mine. The one game on this list that I wouldn't call fun. It's entertaining, and it makes up for it in the feels, but the basic mechanics and survival gameplay help bring along a game that has a fantastic underlying narrative that will make you think about the kind of decisions that you may make when put into the situations that the survivors are put into. This game is difficult, and you won't win this game as much as you will survive the game. However, everything in the game works towards the narrative, from the pencil-like art style to the little touches of the characters blinking to give them a sense of humanity. The decisions you have to make once again are difficult. Do you help the girl who's being attacked by a soldier and put yourself into harm's way? Do you let a stranger stay with you despite the fact that you're low on resources? Do you help your neighbors to move a body that was hit by a sniper to possibly save a life? The choices that you have to make are hard, and your characters will feel the stresses of hunger, lack of sleep, and depression. The game mechanics are simple, but the game will make you feel all of them. Have I mentioned how much this game makes you feel? Because that game made me stay up thinking about every decision that I made. That's how powerful it is. And again, while the gameplay is simple, it does complement everything rather nicely and boils things down to the basics of gaming. Number 6. Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Hey, Assassin's Creed, you want to know how to really innovate within your series? You should have looked at Shadow of Mordor, because it's a better Assassin's Creed than most of your latest entries in the series have ever been. Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system keeps things exciting, and it's probably one of the funnest mechanics I've played in a game this year. The fact that an orc can kill you, that he can become a powerful general and have you hunt him down is fascinating. It drove an interesting narrative that kept me interested beyond the story component of it, as I would get pissed off if I couldn't take a specific orc down, even if I was able to get the intel from his underlings about his weaknesses. The fighting mechanics will allow you to take on a variety of orcs, but will overwhelm you if you are careless, so you need to keep your wits about you if you want to do well. The various quests you will run across will keep you interested, and the story seems to be reasonably strong, at least for the first portion of the game. Now, you may ask, this is on the top of a lot of people's Game of the Year contenders list. Why isn't it higher on my list? Well, I'm going to be honest. It's possible that if I had started this game earlier in the year, it most certainly could have gotten higher on this list. But I literally started this game while working on this list. The fact that it made it on this list at all should be telling. It's a high quality game, but without playing through the entire game and its content, I can't put it higher than the 5 games that I did beat and finish this year on the list. Number 5. Hyrule Warriors. Those who haven't played Hyrule Warriors will sit here and question what a game that's supposedly a cross between Dynasty Warriors and Zelda is doing on this list, as the Dynasty Warriors franchise is known for repetitive gameplay and a lack of strategy. Those who assume that would be wrong. What's on the surface and at a lower difficulty is a hack and slash type of game, but at higher difficulties, the game becomes a challenging management of the battlefield and resources, while you keep central points of the battle up and running. It's the game I played the most during the year that wasn't named Team Fortress 2, and I'm still playing the game several months after its launch, and trying to collect anything and everything that I need to upgrade my characters. It's one of the biggest bang for buck games this year had to offer. What's amazing here is the various battle styles each character allows for. Playing for Fi, as example, goes for a mobile combat strategy which focuses on always moving and taking out large amount of small troops. On the other hand, Mina is a hard hitter when she exposes the weakness of the enemy and hits her enemies in various ways but exposes herself to hits. That's what's really different compared to other portions in the Dynasty Warriors series. The uniqueness of the characters go beyond weapon range. The music, the story, and the redesign of some of the characters, Zelda, were really appreciated and helped bring a whole new tale to the Zelda franchise. I hope that this game will sell Nintendo on being cautious, but more aggressive with taking their flagship franchises in new and interesting gameplay directions. Number 4. Wolfenstein: The New Order. This was the lone FPS this year to make the list, and it doesn't have multiplayer, and it doesn't need it. They used the resources that would have gone to make a mediocre multiplayer instead into make a wonderful single player experience that new FPS games need to look at and how to do things right. The gameplay is a mix of fast-paced action along with stealth sections that keep things fresh throughout the game. The plot of the game is actually fantastic, despite being the core version of Nazis bad, kill them. The first 30 minutes of the game set up the kind of plot that draws you in early on and really was effective in getting you to hate the Nazis in a whole new way. Side characters are all reasonably memorable and makes you connect with them and feel the struggles throughout the story. But the biggest portion is of course gameplay. The various ways to play the game keep the options open. Want to go guns a-blazing with dual-wielding SMGs? Fine. You want to be a little bit more stealth-based? Fine. There's a lot of options for how you want to play, and stands out from the cookie-cutter gameplay that we've seen over FPSs over the last several years. Like Shadow Warrior from the year before, Wolfenstein The New Order stands out a whole lot for not conforming to industry standards and creating a whole new wonderful experience because of that. It's worth several playthroughs and reminds me of those older FPS games that I so adored. Number 3. Binding of Isaac Rebirth. The king of roguelites returned this year with new mechanics, powers, characters, and along with a new set of graphics and music to bring Binding of Isaac back to the spotlight in 2014. Honestly, this is the type of game that if you have trouble figuring out what to play for a day, or just need to find something to unwind with, you'll find yourself playing this by the end of the night. And don't be fooled, this isn't a reskin. There are a lot of new mechanics, and the ability to have multiple powers that would have replaced each other's in the original game create a whole new set of strategies that wouldn't have been there before. It's an upgrade in the original in almost every way, and for a game that I originally put 30 hours into, it shows the quality that was put into the game's production. You mix in a new series of challenges, the new characters with different abilities, and new bosses, and you get the original feeling I had playing the first Binding of Isaac game, but enhanced several fold. And considering my like of all things roguelike, this game most certainly stood out for great games this year. If you want to spend hours in a roguelike in the upcoming year, it's probably going to be Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Number 2. Shovel Knight. Look, Shovel Knight was a contender for Game of the Year, as the quality of the game is so high in almost every area that despite not being a AAA title, and by a completely new studio in Yacht Club Games, it still was able to make number 2 on this list. It's the one thing that I point to when indicating that yes, Kickstarters can work, if the right people and the right team are behind it, and that was for sure with Shovel Knight. Tight controls help in making a wonderful experience of traveling through the various levels that Shovel Knight throws at you. It mixes elements from the classic DuckTales, Mega Man, and various other 8-bit platformers of old. It mixes up nostalgia with interesting game mechanics that help balance between making an experience for those who just want to experience the game, and to those who want to be challenged by allowing for checkpoints, for example, that can be destroyed for more treasure, or recover treasure upon a previous death. Honestly, the only thing that kept this game from number 1 was its length, and although there is some replayability, it honestly makes a strong showing at number 2 regardless of that flaw. And the quality of the game for a $15 title, it's a steal compared to a lot of titles nowadays. If you haven't played it, you're missing out. The game is a return to platformers of old and great mechanics that those games had. Number 1. Bayonetta 2. When it comes down to it, Bayonetta 2 was the game that I was most thankful that I played this year. I love spectacle fighters, and Bayonetta 2's combat system rewards being smart and yet resourceful in gameplay. The story and art style does well on the Wii U system, mixed with some catchy but not over-the-top music, and Platinum Games has followed up with what was my game of the year in 2014. Now no, it's not a flawless game, no game is, but the game does something that is rare for me to do nowadays, play through the game multiple times. There's so many games out there nowadays, and so many games that I want to cover, and for me to want to go back and play it again, and even when I experience the main campaign through and through, it's an testament to how good the game truly is. For me, when a game tries to sell you on its most telling feature, it better do a great job of executing it. Bayonetta 2 did that more than any other game this year. The combat is nearly flawless. The variety of weapons led to different attack strategies and combinations, and the different enemy types were varied enough that made the game never be stale. Mix that with a reasonable amount of boss fights, and you got a game that I'll be recommending for years to come, and replaying from time to time. And for those who didn't play the first, they got the game along with it. This for a game that may not have been made if Nintendo hadn't stepped in to fund it. Well, it paid off in spades, to top a year that in my mind had Nintendo at the top of the consoles. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have a chance, leave some feedback and comments below. If you liked the video, hit that like button. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button. This is Dragnix signing off, hoping that gaming brings as much fun to you as it does for me.